The key to a great story is not who, or what, or when, but why.
A lesson I'm learning myself. Hi, I'm Kevin from the SDP, and this is the 007 Diamond Jubilee. Our story starts in the South China Sea, where a British ship strays into Chinese territorial waters even though, according to their GPS map, they are safely in international waters. What they don't know is that their signal has been hijacked and altered by a satellite belonging to the Carver Media Group. Said group also owns a stealth boat from which they sink the ship, steal one of its nuclear warheads, and report on the story for their newspaper, The Tomorrow. With the blame seemingly placed on China, World War III is imminent, and it's up to 007 to reveal the truth. The first of the two new Bond girls is Paris Carver, Elliot Carver's wife and a former girlfriend of 007. Like Mr. Zukovsky in the last movie, the fact that she and Bond had a thing together is a tad jarring, considering that we've never met the lady, and thus I can't help but see her as more of an object whom he uses to get to Carver. She then effectively gets replaced by Wei Lin, a colonel in the Chinese People's Liberation Army. In this regard, Wei Lin serves as a female counterpart to 007, which explains why her relationship with Bond is less than romantic. Apparently, there's a reason why opposites attract in the dating world.
They say communists don't know how to have fun.
John Doe Baker also returns, making a cameo as Jack Wade. Again, why not Felix Leiter?
You didn't even say goodbye!
The villain is Elliot Carver, president of the Carver Media Group, and whenever I see him, well, let's just say I expect this to happen.
This evil council is simply fabulous. Ooh, let's celebrate by watching the Spice Girls movie.
So yeah, he sure likes to camp it up, as exemplified when he finds himself face to face with a captive Wei Lin and starts mocking her martial arts moves.
Pathetic.
This is not a bad thing in and of itself, but it is indicative of an unfortunate shift towards self-unawareness and unintentional self-parody, which we'll see in a few films' time. Also, let's get one thing straight. Carver was not intended as a satire of Rupert Murdoch. Then again, after his recent phone hacking scandal, anything's fair game in hindsight. Actually no, his original inspiration was a Mr. Robert Maxwell, who served as a British Army captain, member of Parliament, and head of a media empire in the real world. He was prone to suing his detractors, and after his death in 1991, it was revealed that he had misappropriated company funds to prop up share prices, so all in all, not the nicest guy. Among Carver's cadre of henchmen, we have Dr. Kaufman, an assassin, doctor of forensics, and torture technician. He's used only in one scene, but with his pedigree, they could have improved the tension by working into some later scenes somehow. More prevalent in the plot is Stamper, Carver's bodyguard. Basically, he's Red Grant reimagined for the 90s. Things get personal in the second half, as he was allegedly the protege of the quickly killed Dr. Kaufman. How do we know? He says he shares his background in chakra torture. We never get to see this in practice, of course, but granted, some of you might not want to. Finally, there's Henry Gupta, a computer expert working for Carver. Sadly, this techno-genius lacks the personality that made Boris from GoldenEye so distinctive. Bond's new car is a BMW 750 with machine guns, rockets, and tire spikes. It can be driven through a remote control in 007's new cell phone, which also houses a fingerprint scanner and electric shocker. A full-size, remote-controlled car. Jumping the shark? Could be, but it does its job in providing an innovative and intense action scene, which jumping the shark tends to involve. The theme song is performed by Sheryl Crow. In contrast to the last theme song and its dodgy synth instruments, this one features more traditional orchestration, like a Shirley Bassey song mixed with Crow's adult contemporary rock production. The score, composed by David Arnold, does likewise and thankfully shrugs off Eric Serra's admittedly awful score from GoldenEye. Furthermore, we have a separate ending song, Surrender by Katie Lang, which is also similar in its bombastic style, and it was considered as the title song at one point. The opening credits feature telecommunications and technology motifs, as per the villain's occupation, and colored X-ray guns. None of the Ian Fleming novels were involved in the conception of this film. The writer's original plan was to base a plot around the handover of Hong Kong from British to Chinese control, which took place on the 1st of July 1997. However, when the film would not be completed before then, and since they didn't want to depict that kind of crisis if the event transpired without incident, which it did, they scrapped the idea. But vestiges of the concept still exist in the threat of war between the UK and PRC, and the setting in Vietnam. Also, the Bond novel 0-10, also written in 1997 by Raymond Benson, does use the Hong Kong handover as a plot point. Assuming you're not a goldfish who can understand English, you may have noticed that this is the same general plot used by The Spy Who Loved Me and You Only Live Twice before that. Namely, the villain engineers a series of military mishaps meant to coax two superpowers into war. But if you ask me, it's been revisited so often because it works so well, what with it being intricate and nefarious. Also, take note of Carver's end goal. He doesn't want a prolonged war or to take over a government for himself, but to gain exclusive rights to a billion-strong market. This goes to show how the dynamics of power have shifted after the Cold War. These days, it seems the keys to the world are held not by heads of state, but by heads of corporations. So whilst Tomorrow Never Dies is nowhere near as insightful as Goldeneye before it, I still must deal out kudos to the writers for taking this into account, and crafting what is perhaps my favorite Bond movie of all time. All things considered, Tomorrow Never Dies scores 80%, a B.
Filthy habit.